Chapter 10. A Mother's Concern. A sudden thud reverberated through the house, jolting Alex's mother from her evening chores. Concern etched across her face, she hurried to her son's room, her heart pounding with apprehension. With trembling hands, she knocked gently on the door, calling out his name in a voice laced with worry. Silence greeted her, intensifying her anxiety. She turned the doorknob slowly, the creak of the door sounding louder than usual in the stillness of the house. What she saw inside made her gasp a sight that sent a chill down her spine. There, in the center of the room, lay Alex, unconscious and motionless on the floor. Panic surged within her as she rushed to his side, her mind racing with fear and confusion. "Alex! Oh, Alex, wake up!" she pleaded, her voice quivering with emotion as she gently shook his shoulder. But Alex remained unresponsive, his form limp and unmoving. Desperation clawed at her chest as she tried in vain to rouse him from his unconscious state. "Please, Alex, wake up," she whispered, her voice cracking with anguish. With tears welling in her eyes, Alex's mother reached for her phone, her hands shaking as she dialed the emergency services. As she waited for help to arrive, she stayed by her son's side, her heart heavy with worry and uncertainty. Questions swirled in her mind, each more terrifying than the last. What had happened to Alex? Was he injured? Ill? Or was there something more sinister at play? With each passing moment, the weight of the unknown pressed down upon her, threatening to suffocate her with its crushing grip. But amidst the fear and uncertainty, one thing remained clear: she would do whatever it took to ensure her son's safety and well-being. As she waited for help to arrive, Alex's mother clung to hope, praying silently for her son's recovery. And as the sound of approaching sirens filled the air, she whispered a fervent plea to the heavens above, begging for her son to be brought back to her safe and sound. As Alex's eyes fluttered open, he found himself in a strange and unfamiliar room, the sterile scent of antiseptic hanging heavy in the air. Confusion washed over him as he struggled to piece together the events that had led him here. "Where am I?" he murmured aloud, his voice barely a whisper in the quiet of the hospital room. "And how did I get here?" His head spinning with unanswered questions, Alex's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of a nurse, her crisp white uniform a stark contrast against the clinical surroundings. Startled, Alex turned his attention to her as she entered the room, her expression warm and reassuring. "Oh, you're awake," the nurse said softly, her voice gentle as she approached his bedside. "I'm just going to check your vitals and get some blood samples. It won't take long, I promise." As the nurse bustled about, attending to her tasks with practiced efficiency, Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of unease gnawing at the edges of his consciousness. What had happened to him, and why was he in the hospital? Desperate for answers, Alex opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat, his mind still reeling from the shock of his sudden awakening. With a furrowed brow, he watched in silence as the nurse completed her examination, his thoughts racing as he tried to make sense of the situation. But as the nurse finished her tasks and prepared to leave, Alex found himself grasping for words, his voice faltering in the face of his mounting confusion. "Wait," he called out, his voice echoing softly in the empty room. "Can you tell me what happened? Why am I here?" The nurse paused, her gaze softening with sympathy as she turned to face him. "I'm sorry, dear," she said gently, her tone tinged with regret. "I'm not at liberty to discuss your medical history with you, but I can assure you that you're in good hands here. The doctors will be able to answer your questions soon enough." With that, the nurse offered Alex a reassuring smile before quietly slipping out of the room, leaving him alone with his thoughts once more. As he lay there in the dim light of the hospital room, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his life had taken an unexpected turn, propelling him into a world of uncertainty and unanswered questions. And as he drifted into an uneasy sleep, he vowed to uncover the truth behind his mysterious circumstances, no matter the cost. As the nurse closed the door to Alex's hospital room, she wasted no time in stepping outside into the bustling corridor. With practiced ease, she retrieved her phone from her pocket and dialed a number, her fingers moving swiftly over the touchscreen. "Samples secured," she said briskly into the phone, her voice low and urgent. She didn't wait for a response before ending the call, her expression unreadable as she slipped the phone back into her pocket. Moving quickly, the nurse made her way through the maze-like corridors of the hospital, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. But as she reached the exit and stepped out into the cool night air, something shifted within her, a subtle change that went unnoticed by any who might have been watching. With a flicker of movement, the nurse's form began to waver, her features blurring and distorting before settling into a new shape entirely. In an instant, she was no longer the young nurse who had tended to Alex just moments before, but instead an old man with weathered skin and a grizzled beard. Taking a deep breath, the shapeshifter surveyed his surroundings with a sense of satisfaction, his eyes gleaming with a knowing glint. With a final glance back at the hospital, he turned and made his way to his waiting car, his mind already racing with thoughts of what was to come. For the shapeshifter knew that he had a crucial role to play in the events that were about to unfold. And as he drove off into the night, his mind filled with secrets and shadows, he couldn't help but feel a thrill of anticipation at the prospect of what lay ahead.